Hello, we begin with the news that Rishi Sunak will be Britain's next Prime Minister. The former Chancellor had overwhelming support from his colleagues, forcing his final rival to withdraw from the contest. Our Europe correspondent John Paul Gonzo joins us live from Downing Street. JP, it's got to be said this is a pretty remarkable change in fortunes for Mr Sunak.
Lockie, good morning. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Just a few weeks ago, Rishi Sunak lost to Liz Truss in the Conservatives' leadership contest. Today, he is being welcomed by MPs with open arms as the next Prime Minister of Britain. It had become clear by this afternoon he had an overwhelming majority of support from his colleagues, and that forced his final rival, Penny Mordaunt, to drop out of the race. Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor, faces a very difficult job ahead. He needs to unite a warring party and also clean up the economic mess left by Liz Truss. He is a significant appointment. He is the youngest Prime Minister in British political modern history. He's also the first of South Asian descent.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to. The United Kingdom is a great country, but there is no doubt we face a profound economic challenge. We now need stability and unity, and I will make it my utmost priority to bring our party and our country together.
As for what happens next, well, Liz Truss is still technically in power and still has the keys to number 10. She will chair her final cabinet meeting in the morning before making a short statement to the media. Rishi Sunak will then head to Buckingham Palace, where he will meet with King Charles and be invited to form government. That really is the last procedural element of this, and then he will officially be the British Prime Minister. So the Conservatives certainly wanting a very quick and seamless transition of power after weeks and weeks of chaos. Lockie?
It has just been a remarkable few months in the UK. John Paul Gonzo, thank you very much. To politics back home now, and Treasurer Jim Chalmers is preparing to hand down Labor's first federal budget in almost a decade. Our reporter 10 News First, Chloe Burris, joins us live from Parliament House. Chloe, run us through the details. What can we expect?
Good morning. Happy Budget Day. The biggest influence on tonight's budget will be inflation. We're all feeling those cost of living pressures, but it has also driven up the price of commodities and tax receipts. So it's no surprise that the revenue from that, plus all of the savings from axing programs or redirecting spending, means that the deficits tonight will actually be lower than forecast, more than halving from $78 billion to $37 billion. But over time, we know that there will be cost blowouts on things like the NDIS and Stage 3 tax cuts. So over time, the deficits will be worse than we're expecting over the forward estimates. Now, tonight's budget's in a sense almost like a mini budget, really setting the scene for the big one, the next one that's in May. So we will tonight be looking out for any signals of what's to come. The budget lockup starts at 1:30. Our phones will be surrendered, internet cut off as we pore over the documents until 7:30, when the Treasurer Jim Chalmers officially hands down his first budget in Parliament.
A very busy day ahead for you, Chloe Burris. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll have full coverage of the federal budget in the news at 5 o'clock. Then join us for a budget special at 10:40 tonight. We'll have a panel of experts to break down the numbers and just what they mean for you. An investigation has revealed new details in the hack of health insurer Medibank. It's now reported the data breach began with the theft of the credentials of a senior staffer from the company. Those details were then sold to a Russian-language cybercrime forum, according to News Corp. The insurer told its customers it had taken 2 systems offline as a result of a cyber incident, and then later revealed it had been contacted by hackers for ransom, with more than 200 gigabytes of customer data allegedly stolen. To the flood emergency spanning across New South Wales and Victoria now, and at least 130 warnings are in place as more torrential rain brings new misery to already devastated regions. Our reporter Rebecca Powell joins me now from the border town Moama. Rebecca, what's the situation there this morning?
Good morning, Lockie. Well, the skies have certainly cleared, but you can see behind us that the Murray is still at 94.9 metres and there's still floodwater covering some of our roads around Echuca and Moama. Late yesterday afternoon, we were there as a woman had to get some help. She'd suffered an injury inside her home, but the ambulance actually couldn't pass through those floodwaters, so we had police called in from out of town to get to her aid. We understand that she went to hospital and today she is doing okay. Now, Philip Eberly from Fire Rescue New South Wales actually joins me to give us a bit of a clearer picture of what happened overnight. These skies have cleared, but the risk certainly hasn't passed.
No, the risk hasn't passed. The water's sitting where it is, has potential to rise, but it's going to be sitting around the area for quite a while. Residents have got to learn to live and cope, and we'll get them through.
And what was it like overnight, and what are the priorities for your team in the next sort of 24 hours?
So overnight, just prior to sunset, we had a call out to some animal rescues, some welfare checks, and I think that's what's going to start escalating is people are, as the weather settles and the water starts to set its position, they're going to start thinking about animals, what they've left behind, concerns, and the calls will start coming in and our flood rescue crew will deal with it.
And your teams have worked so closely with the local community. How are they faring? How are they feeling?
I think they're doing an awesome job. Actually, they're so supportive of all the emergency agencies. The SCS is out here. They're coordinating the response. They're doing everything we all can, and they're responding to it. And some are feeling the pain, and you can see in it, but they're all keeping a smile on, and they're just helping each other. And
we're hearing that this La Nina weather system is going to bring even more rain. What does that mean from here into December, January next year? What's it going to be like at Moama and Echuca?
Well, for Moama and Echuca, the water will be sitting for quite a while. And, whether it comes up or goes as it goes down, there's going to be long-lasting effects into the coming months. Fire Rescue itself is well and truly committed up to the North Coast. We're supporting the SES with support agencies. We've got flood rescue crews in 6 other locations, and this morning's report was showing that there's minor flooding expected at Bega this morning. So Fire Rescue itself has definitely got itself working hard and supporting the community.
And what's the message to the locals here today?
The message to the locals here today is don't get complacent. Contact the SES if you need help. Contact the council if you need something through the SES. Stay out of floodwaters. Don't drive through floodwaters, please. Stay out of the floodwaters if you don't need to. Don't drink the floodwaters. That's a really good idea. And just stay safe.
So, Lockie, as you've heard it, there's been over 250,000 sandbags laid around Echuca and Moama in these communities, and they shan't be going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, so true. All right, Rebecca Powell, Inspector Eberly, thank you so much for both your times this morning. Appreciate it. Well, New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard has announced he will retire from politics at the next election, saying it's time for a new beginning. After 31 years in Parliament, Hazzard is the longest-serving member of the New South Wales Lower House and became a familiar face through the pandemic. He will be the 5th minister to leave the Perrottet government at the upcoming March poll. Only yesterday, though, he was dismissing questions about his future.
Thank you for your interest in my future. I'm very grateful. I've been always very grateful through the 3 years of the pandemic, and my future will be determined in the fullness of time.
Well, that fullness of time, as he put it, turned out to be less than 12 hours. In a lengthy statement, Hazzard thanked his wife and his family for their support. We have a sad update now on a story we brought you exclusively last week about a young Aboriginal boy who was on life support after a brutal bashing in Perth. 15-year-old Cassius Turvey has died 10 days after he and friends were attacked by alleged vigilantes as they were just walking home from school. One man has now been charged with murder. Police are still on the hunt for 3 others. His heartbroken mum is calling for justice.
15 years of age. For no reason, I've lost him. Going on their appearance, their race, their religion. It's absolutely disgusting, and something has to happen.
It's just a terrible story. Cassius was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries, but 5 days later was discharged, only to suffer a seizure within hours of getting home. He was placed into an induced coma, but passed away when the heartbreaking decision was made to turn off his life support. A teenager allegedly murdered by her ex-boyfriend on Queensland's Sunshine Coast had posted a final photo in the hours before her death. 19-year-old Aaron Daniel Mitchelson Huckle is behind bars accused of killing Emily Thompson and then dumping her body in bushland at Nambour. Police allege he met the 18-year-old in a car park at Strathpine on Saturday afternoon before her family reported her missing. It's understood the pair had recently ended a relationship. Mr Huckle is due back in court next week. A major police operation is underway in Adelaide's north after human remains were found in a paddock. A worker who was clearing long grass at a vacant block in Salisbury, made the grim discovery yesterday afternoon. It's not known how long the remains have been there for.
The remains are in such a state of decomposition at this stage we cannot tell the sex or the age of the deceased, and we currently don't know how long the deceased has been in this location.
Detectives are looking at CCTV from nearby businesses dating back as far as March. A man has been charged over an alleged jewellery heist in southwest Sydney while his partner in crime remains at large. The 23-year-old is accused of smashing display cabinets and firing a gun before making off with jewellery in Carnes Hill. Police followed the two men as they tried to get away on a motorbike. They arrested the passenger, though, before the rider sped off. He'll face court today on several firearm offences, robbery and resisting arrest. An investigation has been launched after a Korean airplane overshot a runway in the Philippines. The Airbus A330 overran the runway at the Mactan Cebu International Airport. The pilot had tried to land twice due to poor weather before making his third attempt. The belly of the aircraft sheared off from the impact and the nose was heavily damaged. Fortunately, none of the 162 passengers and 11 crew on board were injured.